Have you ever felt that your life force was being drained, little by little, without you even realizing it? Many married men walk through their days carrying invisible weight, thinking it is only stress, responsibility, or routine. But what if it is something deeper? What if others are quietly feeding on your inner light, the very energy that makes you feel alive, purposeful, and strong? Carl Jung often reminded us that the unconscious reveals itself in strange ways, and when a man ignores these signals, he becomes an easy target. This is not just about marriage. It's about the hidden dynamics that make you give more than you receive, leaving you spiritually empty. This is a final warning. If you continue ignoring these silent forces, you risk losing yourself completely, your passion, your identity, even your freedom of choice. In this video, you will discover the hidden patterns that are draining your light, why it happens, and how to protect your inner power before it is too late. The hidden drain of your energy. Every married man knows what it means to feel tired at the end of the day. Work, family obligations, and the responsibilities of daily life weigh heavily on the body. But there is a deeper kind of tiredness that goes unnoticed by many men. It is not simply about physical exhaustion or lack of sleep. It is the slow draining of the soul, a steady loss of energy that happens quietly, almost invisibly, until you begin to wonder where your passion and vitality have gone. This hidden drain of energy is dangerous because it disguises itself as ordinary life. Carl Jung often said that the unconscious finds ways to speak when we ignore it. The constant feeling of being empty, the sense that your days are mechanical, the lack of enthusiasm for things you once loved, these are not coincidences. They are signals that your inner light is being consumed. Your light is not only physical strength, it is your ability to love, to imagine, to hope, to create. It is the invisible force that makes you who you are. And when that light is taken from you without balance, you are left with only fragments of yourself. At first, the drain is subtle. You notice that certain conversations leave you heavy. You walk away from moments with less energy than you had before. You agree to things that do not feel right simply to keep the peace. Each of these moments might look small, but together they form a silent pattern that keeps you giving more than you should. And when giving never ends, it no longer feels like love. It becomes surrender. Many married men fall into this trap because they confuse endless sacrifice with strength. They think that being strong means never saying no, never protecting themselves, and always putting others first. But this is not strength, it is neglect of the self. Jung described this neglect as a shadow that grows bigger the more you ignore it. The shadow here is your unspoken need for boundaries, for rest, for balance. When you ignore it, it does not disappear. It waits in silence, growing until one day it erupts as anger, despair, or even a complete loss of identity. Protecting your energy does not mean turning away from love. It means creating balance so that love can breathe. True intimacy cannot exist when one person is always drained and the other is always fed. A healthy bond requires both to give and both to receive. If you ignore this, your marriage may become a place where your soul is slowly consumed, leaving nothing left for genuine closeness. This hidden drain is not only about the relationship with your partner. It also shows up in the way you deal with friends, family, and society. People who take advantage of your light often do not even realize they are doing it. They simply respond to what you allow. If you never draw the line, if you never say, enough, they will continue to take because your silence gives them permission. And each time you allow this, you step further away from your true self. The path back begins with awareness. Ask yourself, why do I feel weaker after certain interactions? Why does my energy feel stolen instead of shared? These are not selfish questions, they are necessary ones. Jung taught that the simple act of recognizing the hidden truth is already a step toward healing. When you see clearly what is happening, the unconscious no longer controls you in silence. You begin to regain control over your choices. Think of your energy as a flame. A flame can light many candles, but if it burns without protection, wind and time will eventually extinguish it. Your task is to shield your flame, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. When you protect it, you can continue to give light without losing yourself. But if you let it burn without awareness, others will feed on it until nothing remains. The warning is clear. If you ignore the drain, it will cost you your joy, your passion, and even your identity. But if you face it, if you value your inner fire, you can rebuild your strength. You can stand again as a man who is not consumed by others, but sustained by his own conscious choices. The hidden drain of your energy is real, but it does not have to define your destiny when love turns into silent control. In the beginning, love feels like freedom. A man enters marriage with the belief that he is choosing partnership, trust, and unity. But over time, that freedom can shift into something else. What once felt like connection may slowly transform into control. Not loud, aggressive control. That is easy to see, but quiet, invisible strings that shape your every decision without you even noticing. This is how love, when misunderstood, can turn into silent control. Carl Jung explained that relationships are not only about two people, but also about the forces of the unconscious that each partner carries. Inside, every person lives the desire for security, power, and recognition. When these needs are unbalanced, love may stop being a gift and start becoming a tool for control. You may begin to feel that your choices are no longer your own. You agree to things not because you want to, but because refusing feels dangerous. You silence your own voice to keep peace. That silence, repeated day after day, becomes a prison built without walls. Silent control works like water dripping on stone. One drop means nothing, but over years, it changes the shape of everything. You hear phrases like, "If you loved me, you would do this," or "Don't you see how much I sacrifice for you?" At first, you dismiss them, but over time, they settle in your mind like commands. The result is a man who is no longer living by his own truth, but by the unspoken rules of someone else's expectations. This control is powerful because it does not appear as control. It hides itself as love, sacrifice, or even duty. Many married men fall into this pattern because they believe being a good husband means always saying yes, always bending, always giving. But what begins as love transforms into silent domination, and the more you give in, the more invisible chains tighten around your soul. Jung would call this the danger of projection. Your partner may project her fears, insecurities, or unhealed wounds onto you. Instead of facing them, she expects you to carry them, and because you want peace, you accept the weight. But projection is never satisfied. It always asks for more. Each time you surrender, your light becomes weaker. The tragedy is that you might not even realize it is happening. You convince yourself that this is what marriage is supposed to be. You tell yourself, "I just want to keep her happy." But deep down, your own happiness is fading. You wake up and feel like a stranger in your own life. That is the mark of silent control. It takes not only your freedom, but also your sense of self. This is why awareness is essential. Silent control can only exist when you ignore your own boundaries. Once you begin to notice the pattern, you can choose to stop feeding it. Ask yourself, am I acting out of love or out of fear of losing love? If your actions are guided by fear, then love has already turned into control. And real love never demands that you shrink so someone else can feel larger. Protecting yourself does not mean rejecting your partner. It means refusing to let fear dictate your choices. True partnership thrives on balance, respect, and freedom. If one partner holds the strings while the other silently obeys, the relationship is no longer alive. It is a performance, and no man can sustain that performance without losing his light. Jung believed that freedom begins inside. When you see the forces that shape your life, you can choose differently. By naming the control, you break its power. By setting boundaries, you protect your light. And by protecting your light, you create space for true intimacy, where both partners give, both receive, and both remain free. The final warning is this: do not allow love to disguise itself as silent control. If you continue down that path, your soul will shrink until nothing remains. But if you face the truth, you can reclaim your voice, your choices, and your identity. Marriage should never cost you your light. It should be the place where your light shines even brighter. If you've ever wondered why love feels so heavy, the Jung method can help you see clearly. It uncovers the unconscious forces that drain or feed your relationships. The link is pinned in the first comment. The weight of unspoken expectations. Every marriage carries expectations. Some are spoken clearly: paying bills, raising children, keeping the house. Others, however, remain hidden beneath the surface. These unspoken expectations are the ones that silently drain your energy because they demand from you without ever being named. They sit in the air like invisible commands, pressing you to perform roles you never agreed to play. Carl Jung believed that much of human suffering comes from what remains unconscious. The unspoken is powerful because it operates without being seen. You might feel the pressure to always be the strong one, to never show weakness, to be the provider of not only money, but also stability, calm, and endless reassurance. Yet no one says this out loud. It is simply assumed, and because it is assumed, you never have the chance to question it. You simply carry the weight. At first, you might accept these roles willingly, thinking they are part of love and responsibility. But over time, the burden grows heavier. You realize that no matter how much you give, it is never enough. You cannot rest without guilt. You cannot express frustration without conflict, and you cannot show vulnerability without feeling judged. These unspoken expectations slowly shape your life into a constant performance, where you are measured not by who you are, but by how well you fulfill invisible demands. This silent pressure leaves deep marks. You begin to live with a sense of failure, even when you are doing everything possible. You feel guilty for moments of weakness, ashamed of your own needs, and restless even in times of supposed peace. The worst part is that you start to forget your own desires. You no longer ask yourself what you want because the question feels irrelevant. The only thing that matters is meeting the expectations that float around you like shadows. Jung would call this the loss of individuation, the process of becoming your true self. When you live entirely for the expectations of others, you lose contact with the core of your being. You become a reflection of what others want, rather than the man you truly are. And once this happens, your light fades. You wake each day carrying burdens that were never fully yours, yet you no longer know how to put them down. Unspoken expectations also breed resentment. You may not express it openly, but inside, frustration grows. Every time you give without recognition, every time your efforts are taken for granted, a quiet bitterness builds. You tell yourself to stay silent to avoid conflict, but silence only feeds the problem. The resentment becomes another hidden shadow, shaping your emotions in ways you do not understand. It leaks into your mood, your tone, your very presence, even when you try to hide it. The tragedy is that many men accept this situation as normal. They believe marriage means carrying invisible weight forever. They convince themselves that asking for balance would be selfish. But this belief is a trap. True love is not about unspoken rules and endless sacrifice. It is about honesty, communication, and mutual respect. Without those, marriage becomes a quiet battlefield where one partner slowly disappears under the demands of the other. To break this cycle, awareness is key. Begin by asking, what expectations am I carrying that were never spoken? Which roles do I perform because I believe I must, not because I truly choose them? These questions reveal the invisible contracts that drain your energy. Once you see them, you can begin to renegotiate. You can speak them aloud, bring them into the open, and refuse to carry what does not belong to you. Jung taught that the process of making the unconscious conscious is the beginning of freedom. When you identify the unspoken, you take back your power. You are no longer a puppet of silent rules, but a man who chooses consciously. This does not mean abandoning responsibility or refusing love. It means creating balance, where your own needs are valued alongside those of your partner. The warning is clear. If you continue to carry unspoken expectations without question, you will lose your joy and identity. But if you bring them into the light, you can reclaim your energy and rebuild your marriage on a foundation of honesty. Love cannot grow in silence. It thrives only where truth is spoken, where both partners share the weight, and where a man is free to be himself without fear, the slow death of your inner fire. Every man begins marriage with a flame inside. It is the flame of desire, of curiosity, of dreams yet to be lived. This inner fire pushes you to build, to love, to fight for what matters. But over the years, many men notice that the fire grows smaller. It does not go out suddenly. Instead, it fades slowly, like embers that lose their glow. The tragedy is that most men think this is simply part of life. They tell themselves, this is how marriage works, this is how getting older feels. But the truth is different. Your inner fire does not have to die. It is being drained piece by forces you have ignored for too long. Carl Jung described the psyche as a source of energy that must stay alive and moving. When that energy is blocked, denied, or consumed by others, the soul begins to wither. You may notice it first as a loss of passion. The hobbies you once loved feel heavy. The projects you once dreamed of starting now feel impossible. Even the simple joy of being alive seems weaker. This is not laziness. It is the slow death of your fire. Marriage, when unhealthy, can accelerate this process. Instead of being a space that feeds your energy, it becomes a place where you are constantly drained. Every argument leaves you colder. Every unspoken resentment takes another spark away. The routines that once gave structure now feel like cages, and because you want peace, you convince yourself that this is normal. But inside, your light flickers, waiting for you to notice. The death of inner fire shows itself in silence. You stop speaking about your dreams. You stop asking questions about life. You stop laughing the way you used to. Your eyes lose their brightness. Your step loses its strength. To those around you, you may still look the same. But inside, you know, something vital is missing. Jung warned that ignoring this truth leads to despair. The unconscious will not allow you to live without your fire. If you refuse to face the emptiness, it will break you through depression, anger, or destructive habits. One of the most dangerous illusions is believing that this fire can survive without attention. Like any flame, it needs fuel. It needs space to breathe. If you keep giving all your energy away without protecting your own needs, the fire has nothing left to burn. And when it dies, you no longer feel like yourself. You become a man who lives on the outside, but is dead on the inside. The final warning is this: do not allow your fire to fade unnoticed. Every time you ignore your own desires, you weaken it. Every time you silence your truth, you cover it with ash. Every time you give without balance, the flame burns lower. But the moment you recognize its importance, you can begin to revive it. Ask yourself, what once made me feel alive? What moments still spark even the smallest flame within me? These questions are not luxuries. They are survival. Jung believed that reconnecting with passion is essential to individuation, the process of becoming fully yourself. Without fire, there is no self. Without self, there is no real love to give. Protecting your inner fire does not mean rejecting your partner or abandoning your family. It means valuing your light enough to keep it alive. It means choosing activities that feed your soul, conversations that inspire you, and boundaries that stop others from consuming you entirely. It means remembering that you are not only a husband or a provider, you are a man with a spirit that deserves to shine. If you continue to ignore the slow death of your fire, life will lose its meaning. But if you choose to protect it, you can rediscover passion even within marriage. You can bring back curiosity, laughter, and strength. And when your fire burns again, you are not only stronger for yourself, but you become a source of true warmth for those you love. The chains of guilt and obligation. Every married man knows the power of guilt. It creeps into decisions, conversations, and even silence. You hear an unspoken message. You owe more. You must give more. You cannot rest. Guilt is not always shouted at you. Sometimes it is whispered in subtle ways. A sigh, a disappointed look, a reminder of past mistakes. These become chains that keep you tied to endless obligation. And slowly, without noticing, you begin to confuse love with debt. Carl Jung believed that guilt can be both necessary and destructive. Healthy guilt helps us recognize when we have crossed our own values. But destructive guilt is different. It is not born from your own conscience, but is planted in you by others. This kind of guilt serves as a leash. It keeps you obedient, predictable, and drained. And when you combine this with the natural sense of duty every man carries, the result is a prison built not with walls, but with invisible chains. The tragedy is that many men mistake this prison for responsibility. They convince themselves that being a husband means living under constant obligation. They stop asking what they truly want because they believe their only purpose is to give and give without end. This creates an inner war. One part of you longs for freedom and rest, while another part whispers that wanting these things makes you selfish. Over time, the conflict exhausts your spirit. You no longer act from love, but from fear of guilt. These chains show up in small ways. You cancel moments for yourself because someone might be upset. You take on tasks that drain you because you fear being seen as lazy. You remain silent in disagreements because you feel guilty for having your own needs. Each decision might look harmless, but together they forge the heavy armor of obligation that slowly crushes your soul. Jung would say that this is the result of ignoring the shadow. The shadow holds your unspoken anger, your hidden desires, your need for autonomy. When you deny it in order to appear good and responsible, it does not vanish. It grows stronger, feeding on your silence. And eventually, it demands attention through bitterness, emotional distance, or explosive reactions you cannot control. The danger of living chained to guilt is that your light becomes the property of others. You stop being the man you are meant to be and become only a servant to expectations. Marriage, instead of being a space of love, turns into a stage where you perform roles that leave you empty. You give out of fear, not out of freedom. And love without freedom is not love, it is control. Breaking these chains begins with one realization. Obligation is not the same as devotion. Real devotion is born from choice. It flows when a man protects his light and then gives it freely. But when your giving is demanded, when guilt forces your hand, it is no longer devotion. It is slavery disguised as love. Ask yourself, how many of my choices are truly mine? How many are dictated by guilt? These questions are not selfish. They are essential to your survival. Jung taught that freedom begins the moment you face what lies hidden in the unconscious. When you admit that guilt has been used to control you, you can finally separate what is real responsibility from what is false obligation. This does not mean rejecting your marriage or abandoning your partner. It means learning to act from authenticity instead of fear. It means creating balance, where your sense of duty is guided by your values, not by manipulation. When you give from freedom, your energy grows. When you give from guilt, your energy dies. The final warning is clear. If you continue to live under chains of guilt and obligation, you will lose not only your light, but also your sense of self. But if you face the truth, if you choose to break the chains, you can rebuild a marriage where love is free and devotion is real. No man was created to live in a prison of guilt. You were created to live in truth, where your giving has meaning and your soul remains alive. The illusion of endless sacrifice. From the moment a man marries, society whispers a message in his ear. You must give everything. You are told that to be a good husband means to sacrifice endlessly, to place everyone else above yourself, and to measure your worth only by how much you endure. At first, this may sound noble, but hidden behind this message is a dangerous illusion, the belief that endless sacrifice equals love. In reality, it is the very pattern that slowly drains your light and kills your spirit. Carl Jung warned that living against your true nature creates inner conflict. A man is not designed to abandon his individuality in the name of sacrifice. When he does, his unconscious rebels. He begins to feel anger without knowing why, emptiness without clear cause, and a loss of passion that cannot be explained. Endless sacrifice does not produce closeness. It produces distance, because a man who constantly denies himself becomes hollow inside. And a hollow man cannot give real love. The illusion of sacrifice grows quietly. At first, you tell yourself, I'm doing this because I love her. You give up your hobbies, your friendships, your moments of silence. You accept routines that do not nourish you. You say yes to requests that drain you. Each decision looks small, but together they form a pattern. Soon, your life becomes a long list of what you no longer do, no longer want, no longer feel. And the saddest part is that you convince yourself this is proof of love. But love built on self-erasure is not love. It is submission. True love requires two whole individuals, each protecting their own light and then choosing to share it. Endless sacrifice breaks this balance. It creates one partner who is constantly giving and another who is constantly receiving. With time, resentment replaces intimacy. Instead of feeling connected, you feel invisible. Instead of feeling valued, you feel used. Jung would say that this illusion is a form of projection. Your partner may unconsciously project her needs onto you, expecting you to meet them all. And because you want harmony, you accept the role. But projection is never satisfied. The more you give, the more is demanded. And the more you sacrifice, the less of yourself remains. The truth is simple but difficult. Sacrifice without limits is a slow form of self-destruction. You may survive physically, but inside you are disappearing. Your dreams, your desires, your passions, they fade into shadows. You no longer recognize the man you see in the mirror because his fire has been buried under layers of duty. Breaking this illusion begins with honesty. Ask yourself, which sacrifices are necessary and which are destroying me? Not every sacrifice is harmful. Acts of love sometimes require giving up comfort, but when sacrifice becomes your identity, when it demands your soul instead of your effort, it is no longer healthy, it is exploitation. The warning here is urgent. Endless sacrifice will not save your marriage. It will slowly kill it. A man without identity cannot love, and a woman who feeds on his sacrifice cannot truly receive love. Only balance creates life. When you protect your light, you give from freedom. When you give from freedom, your energy grows instead of fading. Jung taught that individuation, the process of becoming fully yourself, is not selfish but sacred. You cannot bring real love to another if you abandon yourself. To protect your soul is not betrayal. It is the foundation of authentic intimacy. Without it, your marriage becomes a hollow performance where both partners lose what truly matters. The final warning is clear. Do not fall into the illusion that endless sacrifice is proof of love. It is proof only of self-neglect. Love thrives, not when one is consumed, but when both are alive. Protect your light, guard your fire, and give only from a place of wholeness. That is the only sacrifice worth making, the sacrifice of illusion for the truth that sets you free. The mirror of a lost identity. One of the most painful truths for a married man is waking up one day and realizing he no longer recognizes himself. The mirror does not lie. It reflects the tired eyes, the forced smile, and the weight of years, lived more for others than for himself. This is the mirror of a lost identity. It does not happen overnight. It happens slowly, quietly, as your light is drained piece by piece until you stand as a stranger in your own life. Carl Jung warned that when a man ignores his inner self, the unconscious takes revenge. It shows up in dreams, in sudden bursts, of anger, in deep sadness you cannot explain. All of these are signals that your identity is slipping away. You once had passions, ideas, and goals that gave meaning to your existence. But under the pressure of marriage, responsibility, and constant sacrifice, those parts of you have been buried, and the more you ignore them, the more they haunt you in silence. The loss of identity is dangerous because it makes you easy to control. A man who no longer knows himself does not know what to defend. He has no boundaries, no clear vision of what he wants, no anchor to keep him steady. This is why people who feed on your light succeed when you are disconnected from your core. They see the emptiness and step in to shape you according to their needs. And little by little, you forget that you ever had needs of your own. You may notice this in small moments. You stand in front of the mirror and see only roles: husband, father, provider. But where is the man behind the roles? Where is the fire, the uniqueness, the soul? When identity fades, life becomes a routine of obligations with no true joy. You act, but you do not feel. You give, but you do not live. Jung described individuation as the process of becoming whole, of uniting your conscious life with the truth of your unconscious self. Losing identity means abandoning this path. It means silencing your authentic voice to fit into an image that others expect from you. The result is a man who is alive on the outside, but empty inside. He wears a mask every day, convincing the world he is strong, while secretly mourning the death of who he really is. This disconnection also destroys intimacy. How can you be close to your partner if you no longer know who you are? How can you give love if you have abandoned your own soul? Instead of intimacy, you create distance. Instead of passion, you feel duty. Instead of joy, you live with quiet, despair. And the more you ignore it, the more you become a ghost in your own marriage. The mirror of lost identity also reflects the price of silence. Each time you avoided conflict by suppressing your voice, each time you sacrificed your truth to maintain peace, each time you allowed guilt to dictate your choices, you gave away a piece of yourself. At first, the loss feels small, but over the years, the fragments add up until there is almost nothing left. That is when you stand before the mirror and do not recognize the man staring back, Breaking free begins with courage. Courage to look honestly at your life and admit what has been lost. Courage to ask, who am I beyond these roles? What part of me have I abandoned in order to survive? These questions open the path back to yourself. They may feel uncomfortable, even frightening, but they are necessary. Jung taught that the truth, once faced, becomes the first step toward healing. Reclaiming your identity does not mean rejecting your marriage. It means refusing to live as a shadow of yourself. It means bringing your true desires, values, and passions into the light. It means remembering that your soul has as much value as your responsibilities. When you stand in your identity again, you are no longer easy to drain. Your light becomes stronger, steady, and unshakable. The final warning is clear. If you continue to ignore the man in the mirror, you will lose yourself completely. But if you dare to look honestly, if you choose to honor your true self, you can rebuild your life with authenticity. The mirror does not only reflect loss, it can also reflect rebirth. And the moment you recognize yourself again, your light begins to shine with power no one can steal. Reclaiming your light before it's too late. Every warning means nothing if it is ignored. The truth is that many married men know deep inside that their light is being drained, yet they continue living as if nothing is wrong. They tell themselves that things will get better, that this is just a phase, that sacrifice is what makes them valuable. But these are lies that keep you trapped. The reality is simple. If you do not reclaim your light, no one will do it for you. Carl Jung often spoke of the urgency of self-awareness. He believed that the unconscious, if ignored, turns against you. The fatigue, the emptiness, the lack of joy, these are not random feelings. They are signals, alarms ringing in your soul, begging you to wake up. The final warning is not about fear, but about clarity. Your life is slipping away if you refuse to act. Every day that you allow others to feed on your energy without boundaries, you lose more of yourself. And one day, if you are not careful, you may look back and realize there is nothing left to save. Reclaiming your light begins with honesty. You must admit what drains you, what silences you, what chains you. Stop convincing yourself that endless sacrifice is proof of love. Stop telling yourself that guilt is your duty. Stop hiding behind the belief that this is just how marriage works. These lies keep you weak. The truth sets you free. And the truth is that your light matters as much as anyone else's. The process is not easy. You will face resistance from others and from yourself. Your partner may not understand at first. People who benefited from your silence may resist your new strength. Even within you, guilt will whisper that protecting your energy is selfish. But Jung would remind you, individuation, the process of becoming whole, always requires courage. The path back to yourself is not for the faint of heart. Yet it is the only path that leads to real freedom. Ask yourself, what do I truly want my life to feel like? What must I protect in order to keep my fire alive? These are not questions of luxury, they are questions of survival. Every answer you discover will give you strength. Each step you take to guard your light will return your passion, and as your light grows stronger, your marriage will also face its truth. Love cannot live in control, in silence, or in guilt. It can only live where two whole people meet freely. This is why the final warning is urgent. Reclaim your light now, not tomorrow, not when it is convenient. Every delay costs you another piece of yourself, and the more pieces you lose, the harder it is to return. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to live, to shine, to love from a place of freedom. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for someone else to save you. Stand up for your soul before it is too late. Jung once said that the greatest burden of life is to live without meaning, and that is exactly what happens when your light is drained. You survive, but you do not live. You exist, but you do not feel alive. To reclaim your light is to reclaim meaning. to step back into your true self, to live from the fire that no one has the right to steal. So take this as your wake-up call. Look honestly at your life, face what has been hidden, and choose to protect your soul. Your light is not just yours, it is your gift to the world, but you can only give it if you first guard it. This is your final warning. Do not let them feed on your light anymore. And if you felt the truth in these words, stay with us. In the next videos, we will continue to uncover the hidden forces that shape your relationships, your desires, and your freedom. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this message with others who need it. Do not walk this path alone. Together, we will bring what is hidden into the light. Your story is not over. The best chapters are still waiting to be written.